going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmacSports.
Instagram is also at ImmacSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 204. We're back in the swing of things with baseball, so a lot to talk about with that. We owed you guys a lot of things, including power rankings and more.
Yeah, we're doing a good check-in. Yeah, I think the segment we've always called it "Where's Your Head At?" This is a perfect "Where's Your Head At?" week for it, where we're going over power rankings, doing some award race check-in, and then our usual player, pitcher, and rookie of the week. We'll get started the same way that we always do, though, with the opener. Skyler, tell me about the world champion of what?
Yes, so my opener is actually going to be pretty controversial to most of the sports we talk about here, but it's Noah Lyles. We know last year he was the world sprinter champion. He said something about how, winning the Super Bowl or the finals isn't the same as being the world champion since you're only playing against the United States and maybe occasionally Canada. And, well, he backed it up this year, man. He won the gold on the men's 100. Just a ridiculous race. He won it with his collarbone. He didn't even cross the line first. And just to give you some reference how crazy this race was, the difference from third place to last place was 0.12 seconds. So, you're allowed to not like Noah Lyles, but I still thought that was an epic moment, the way he backed up his mouth. Pretty cool.
Yeah, you can't really talk shit about that anymore. And it's funny, is Devin Booker, I want to say, was saying, he still believes that winning an NBA championship's harder than winning the 100-meter dash as the fastest man in the world. There's only one fastest man in the world. There's going to be 15 NBA champions every single year.
Yeah.
That's, again, just in the NBA. With that being said, of course, the best NBA team is going to be the best EuroLeague team, the best, Australian team. There's no such need for a Champions League or anything like that in the NBA. But Noah Lyles, you walk the walk and you talk the talk pretty damn well there. And pretty sure he's got the 200 or something like that should be coming up as well, too. But I'm pretty sure he's the by far favorite because what he's bad at is the 100, I'm pretty sure. He's slow out the gate and then he just gets super, super fast after. So I'd imagine the 200 will be a piece of cake for him whenever that happens. But the Olympic Games in general, pretty fun to watch all the stuff going on right now. I know the U.S. just took the gold medal lead that we've been trying to get for the last few days from China. I know Australia has had some beef with us. I saw some TikToks, just one-sided beef where they're just talking shit about us. Yeah, dude, we're going to fucking pass you guys up at gold medals anyways in about a day or two. So Australia, you can stay down under and keep your mouth shut while you're over there. My opener, though, I guess I could have had as my opener last week because we did, we're at the end of trade deadline talk last week, but this week kind of reflecting on some of the stuff that happened. And my opener is just, I'm happy that Brent Rooker and Mason Miller remain A's into the month of August and hopefully years down the line as well, too. And I saw a lot of slander coming towards the A's for not moving these guys. Rooker, Miller, their value is probably the highest it'll ever be at this point in time. Everybody's saying, what's the point in keeping them? The A's aren't going to do anything anytime soon anyways. But all of those dudes are casuals because they don't realize that the A's had the best record in the American League in the month of July. Yeah. This is the best team in the American League in the month of July. That plain and simple. And when you have a good month of going 17-11, hitting the most homers in the American League, scoring the second most runs in the American League just behind the Boston Red Sox, that gives you some optimism for the future. And that's without Soderstrom. That's with one at-bat of Jacob Wilson. This is with the down-year Gelof. Just imagine when Butler, Rooker, Bleday, all these dudes are starting to hit, and hopefully we get some pitching, back as well too. Maybe Luis Morales in a year. Hopefully the guys we got back in the trade from Ersteg and Blackburn turn into stuff. They could talk 500 next year, even sneaking into a wild card spot. I don't think that's ridiculously crazy to say right now. And without Brent Rooker and Mason Miller on the team, that we would have had another 3 years of complete mediocrity. So I like the A's, being confident with the guys that they have right now. Because, man, it's been so tough these past 3 years. It's stuff we will say.
Yes, it is.
Moving on, though, to our player, pitcher, rookie, and of the week, Skyler. Last week we had a no-hitter, so it's pretty easy to gauge who's going to be the player and pitcher of the week. This week we got another. Tell me who's the player of the week.
Yeah, it's got to be Blake Snell, a very impressive no-hitter in Cincinnati. 3 walks to 11 Ks, just to continue his really unstoppable second half. He also goes 114 pitches, killing the joke everyone's made for 5 years now. Excellent job.
Yeah, you throw his last 2 outings together. No-hitter was the only one within this past week, but if you look at the one before that too, where he struck out a career-high 15 batters, Blake Snell is pretty often the best pitcher in the league in the second half of the season, and he's showing that with his first career no-hitter in Cincinnati this past weekend. Obviously, pitcher of the week as well, too. I don't think there's going to be any complaints there. If you don't have any, honorable mentions that you want to talk about, we can jump right into rookie of the week.
Yeah, we'll go into it.
Go ahead.
For rookie, all right. Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Jackson Holliday here. 7 big RBIs thanks to a grand slam in his return to the bigs. It's all about confidence with a young guy like that, and I'm sure it'll be the first of many in these last 2 months. Honorable mention to our guy David Festa shutting down the Cubs last night. We were joking about him, I think, off the podcast the other day, but shout out to him.
Yeah, I got to go with Jackson Holliday for my rookie of the week as well, too. I think he kind of, I don't want to call it like a villain archetype that we've seen with him, but with how much slander he got for his first couple weeks in the big leagues where he had like 1 or 2 hits and 35, 40 at-bats, him coming up and right away just shutting the haters up with the grand slam in the first game and 7 hits over this past week. That's good to see for a guy who's 20 years old. He had 2 total homers, a double in there as well, 2 7 RBIs, OPS over 1.2. So Jackson Holliday, your first rookie of the week, and hopefully not your last. Moving into power rankings, usually we do them bi-weekly. Last week we didn't get a chance to do them because there was so much trade deadline talk, and that would have just made the episode be ridiculously long. So we're going to do them this week, 3 weeks removed from our last power rankings episode that we had. Doing top 15 is normal. Skyler, do you have any teams that are just off your list or some honorable mentions that you want to talk about?
Yeah, the Astros and the Cardinals will be dropping out this week. I don't think our expectations were too high for them either. Just not a great stretch.
Yeah, I have the Astros dropping off of my list as well, too. I didn't have the Cardinals on before, and they are not on this week either, so no surprise there for me. But the Astros, I expected them to kind of just jump on it the past couple of weeks to take over this division. We haven't seen them do that. We've actually seen them lose ground in the divisional game. And for that reason, they are off of my top 15 power rankings. Moving on to number 15, though, Skyler, who do you got?
I got the San Francisco Giants. First time in the top 15 all season long. And pretty funny, too, even after selling at the deadline, because it looks like they have one of the best rotations in baseball, 9-5 in their last 2 weeks. Also thanks to 20 homers during that time. So that's how the lineup's making up for the losses they've had, the long ball.
Yeah. My number 15 team was an unranked team our last time around, and they've been firing me up. It's the Tampa Bay Rays, 57-54, 4.5 games out of a wild card spot. And this team just feels rejuvenated after the retooling or even selling that you can call it. At the deadline, they got Jeffrey Springs back at the end of July. He's back in the rotation, which is good to see. Drew Rasmussen should be a guy that's coming back soon. He's been in the minor leagues, whether it's a long-term reliever spot or whatever. That's kind of confusing what they're going to do with him. But his velocity has been up. He was already really good pre-Tommy John. If he comes back and is pitching the way that he's used to in the second half of the season, that's going to be something to look out for. Josh Lowe, who had a slow start this season, is starting to get hot over his last 15 games. The lineup still plays super deep, even without a Randy Arozarena or Isaac Paredes. And the bullpen is exactly how do you expect it with the addition of Hunter Biggie into that back end of the bullpen. Even without a Jason Adam, they still got arms for days. It's the Tampa Bay Rays. Ryman accidentally, number 15, moving on to 14.
All right, 14, I got the Metropolitans staying put from last time. I'm not sure if they're going to make it to the postseason, but what they're doing is interesting. Everyone's having a down year, yet the Mets continue to find a way to be 5 games over 500 the entire season.
Yeah, the Seattle Mariners are going to be my number 14 team. They moved down 3 spots from my last rankings. The only AL West team in the entire top 15. 59-54 is a game and a half up in the AL West as of right now. It's been the same recipe for the Mariners this entire year. The rotation's great, the bullpen's great, and the lineup is ridiculously terrible. They're going through some injuries right now with Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford with some extended absences. And for that reason, I can't trust this team. They are hitting Victor Robles, who has been good in the leadoff spot ever since he came to Seattle about a month ago. That's not a bat I'm going to rely on once I get into late August and September. So Seattle has to move down to my rankings 3 spots. Number 13.
And next up is where I got Seattle, only dropping them down 1 spot here, but this is another team that just loves to go 500 every single week, ever since they started off hot this year. You can tell some of the lineup is starting to click a little bit. The new faces, Rosarina, Justin Turner, they've had big moments, even a series win against Philly, but let's see if they can do it for a long period of time first.
Yeah. Boston is going to be my number 13 team. They do move down 3 spots, but I really don't think it's because of their play. I think there's some NL teams that really impressed over the last 3 weeks and took over the Red Sox spot, but I think they've maintained pretty well over this last 21-day stretch. They're sitting at 60-51 right now, a game and a half out of the wild card spot. Looking at their deadline acquisitions, I think they did exactly what they needed to do without giving up some future long-term stuff. They added James Paxton, bullpen arms in Luis Garcia and Lucas Sims, and then the catcher and Danny Jansen. And you got to believe the internal feeling with the guys that they have in this minor league system, whether it's Roman Anthony, Kyle Teal, Marcelo Meyer, whoever it is back there, they have an internal feeling that they're going to win in the future. And I like that they didn't jeopardize any of that future to just, make the wild card spot this year. The lineup is deep. The rotation is okay. The bullpen's solid. The team this year is good. They're going to be really damn good in about 2 or 3 years. So next up, number 12.
At the 12 spot, I got the Diamondbacks. They were not ranked last week, but always one of those teams in the honorable mentions. They're finally one of the hottest teams in baseball. 10-4 over their last 14. And it seems like every time you turn them on, it's Marte, Moreno, Bell, Suarez, Jock Peterson doing something cool. And the numbers hold up too. 27 homers over the last 20 days.
Number 12 for me is going to be where I slot the New York Mets up 1 spot from my last rankings. They're at 59-53, a game and a half outside the wild card in the NL. I started this rankings this week a little bit differently than I was in the first half. I was looking kind of more at regular season teams in the first half. Now I'm feeling, how does this team compete in the playoffs? And with Kodai Senga out for the year, my biggest question with the Mets in a playoff scenario is, who are your 3 to 4 starting pitchers? You're going to go Luis Severino for 1 game most likely, probably Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana maybe, and then that 4th guy with Christian Scott injured, you can have step up. My guess, Brandon Sproat. They're minor league guy right now. He's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He's in AAA. Call him up. Give him this 2-month stretch to pitch in the big leagues. Give him some big league time. Get him ready for the postseason, because you're going to need him if you want to do anything in October. With that being said, outside of the starting rotation, I think there's a whole lot less questions. The bullpen's solid. The lineup is deep and healthy outside of Starling Marte being out for right now. Number 11.
Number 11, I got the Padres going up from the 15 spot last time. I mentioned Arizona's pretty hot. San Diego's the hottest team in baseball, 11-3 over the past 2 weeks. To be 6th in the OPS with that rotation is pretty dirty work. Even Waldron looks unhittable right now.
Yeah, number 11 for me is going to be where I slot the Milwaukee Brewers. Despite having the 7th best record in the MLB right now, they moved down 4 spots from my last rankings at 62-49 as we speak. And again, looking at the playoff scenario, who outside of Freddie Peralta do you trust to take the ball for you in a playoff game? Is it Colin Ray? Is it Tobias Myers? Who's the guy for you? Is it Frankie Montas? I don't know. Regardless, past the starting rotation, I think this bullpen is still really good, especially now with Devin Williams being back. We've got some good seasons for Brian Hudson, Jared Koenig, and some of the other guys in that back end. But the lineup is also super questionable. With Christian Yelich perhaps out for the rest of the season, who's going to be the guy that you trust to take those big at-bats for you later in the season? Contreras hasn't been as good. Adames has been solid. I just don't think this team is built for the playoffs right now. And It's like that. It could be similar to their, playoff run last year where they hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks and got swept in 2 games in the wild card series. Next up, number 10.
Number 10, I got the Royals going up one spot. The lineup is finally tearing it up right now, but I'm still a little hesitant to move them up further than the 10 spot here. You can tell they're trying to adopt some of that guardian on-base philosophy, and it's working right now because the pitching's always going to be there.
Number 10 for me is going to be where I slot the San Diego Padres, moving up 2 spots from our last rankings. Sitting at 61 and 52, they had an active trade deadline. They added Martin Perez. They added 2 relievers that have first names as last names in Tanner Scott and Jason Adam. And then they also got Brian Honing in the Tanner Scott trade. The bullpen is damn good, whether it's Estrada, Suarez, Scott, Adam, whoever's back there. If I'm giving the ball to someone, I'm completely okay with whoever it is. The only question for me is, do you want your 3 starter in the playoffs to be Matt Waldron? I know he's been good in the regular season, but you got to get Musgrove or Darvish back at some point to really make me feel confident in their starting rotation in a playoff scenario. The lineup I do feel confident in. Tatis is hurt right now, but he should be back by the end of the month is what I'm guessing. But the lineup plays really deep, 1 through 8 or 1 through 9, depending on who's in, what position that day. Number 9.
Number 9, I'm going to keep the Red Sox here, not move them down. And that's because I found they have the best OPS in baseball over the past month. And that takes a lot of stress out the rotation. But they're yet to separate themselves in the wild card race. So I can't move them up necessarily, but I'm going to keep them put at number 9.
Number 9 for me is going to be one of my biggest movers up in the power rankings. That's the Arizona Diamondbacks, up 6 spots from our last rankings at 61 and 52. They had an active trade deadline with AJ Puck, Dylan Floro, and added Josh Bell. Another big thing for them is they activated Eduardo Rodriguez today, who they signed in the offseason, has not pitched this entire season. He's making his debut start for the Diamondbacks against the Guardians today in about 20, 30 minutes, actually. I like the rotation now, especially as Erod back, especially the top 3, whether it's Gallen, Montgomery, Rodriguez, or Fott, whoever you want to put in there. I think they did a good job there. The bullpen is pretty sketchy, but I think if you get, good second half from Puck and Dylan Floro, maybe Paul Sewald goes back into a good spot with him not being the closer as of right now. I think you'll be okay there, and you'll be especially okay there because this lineup is ridiculous, man. The second most runs in all of baseball at 582, only behind the New York Yankees as of right now. Only cause for concern would be Gabriel Moreno, who left the game yesterday and is now on the injured list with the left adductor strain. I think they should get Christian Walker back soon, though, and I think they'll be just fine. This Arizona Diamondbacks team looks exactly the way that they looked in October last year or this past month. Number 8.
Number 8, I got Minnesota also staying put because Minnesota is as streaky as ever, but right now they are on a heater, 5 in a row, thanks to the White Sox a little bit. But the Twins are always going to be dangerous while they're healthy, and they still have a 1.5 game lead over Kansas City. So I think they deserve a top 10 spot.
Yeah, Kansas City is going to be my number 8 team. They are one of my biggest risers in this week as well, 2 up 6 spots, just like the Diamondbacks. 63 and 51. They had an active trade deadline, adding Michael Lorenzen, Lucas Erceg, Hunter Harvey, and Paul DeJong. And as of right now, the rotation seems as deep and as good as any team in the league right now, especially when you look at their top 3 with Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans, and Brady Singer. I think another big part with this team is something that I had against them for the longest times, that they just weren't getting a lot of contributions outside of Bobby Witt. Salvador Perez was having a good season, but just outside of, a couple dudes, there's all below league average guys around him. Now they're starting to get more production from other guys not named Bobby Witt, but they're also doing this while Bobby Witt is going absolutely nuclear. So it's just a good cause for offense right now. Their bullpen's good. The rotation's good. The Kansas City Royals finally feel like a playoff team for me, and that's why they move up so far in my rankings. Number 7.
So number 7, I did decide to keep the Brewers there. because it's a crazy Milwaukee pitching factory, and I still can't get that out of my mind. But I'm glad you said what you did, because the next part of my note here is I don't think I can pick them over Atlanta in a first round matchup. So this kind of feels like their apex for the season. It can only go downhill from here, especially if we get another 7-7 stretch over the next 2 weeks. They're probably not going to be in the top 10 for me again.
Yeah. Number 7 for me is going to be where I slot the Atlanta Braves. So good fitting spot there. And segue into them. They're down one spot from my last rankings at 65-51. If you had the last couple weeks like they did, where they only added Soler, they lost Ozzy Albies, and now Reynaldo Lopez, you would think, hey, you should probably move him down quite a bit more. But when you got the track record that some of those dudes have on that team, you can't move them down that much. I trust Sean Murphy. I trust Matt Olson. I trust Austin Riley. I trust the guys in the outfield. I trust the rotation of Fried, Morton, and Chris Sale, plus a Schwellenbach or whoever it is as a 4 or 5 I'm completely okay with. The Braves are going to be all right. They're probably going to get the 1 seed as far as a wild card spot goes. And I think that's completely content with, no Strider, no Acuna, and not having the, most boisterous trade deadline either. Number 6.
Also have the Braves here next at 6. This will end the run of 4 teams in a row not moving, trust me. But this is just another team trying to coast into October. But the 221 team batting average this month, or over the past amount of games that a month would be in, is frightening. But for them right now, it's all about the pitching. Schwellenbach and Bryce Elder have stepped in big time in their new roles, and I think things are going to be okay up until they get to October.
Yeah. Number 6 for me is going to be the Minnesota Twins. They move up 2 spots now at 63-48. They didn't do much at the trade deadline, but the biggest thing for them is just to stay healthy. It's something that we've preached for them this entire season. As of right now, they're pretty healthy outside of Carlos Correa, who should be back somewhat soon. And this feels like a good playoff team. The top 3 in the rotation, Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Over, looks like a good starting 3 there. And then the back end of bullpen with Johan Duran, Griffin Jackson, Jorge Alcala is untouchable. Give those guys the ball 7, 8, 9. You're good to go. Get 6 innings from your first 3 guys, and this team is going to be tough to beat once it comes to playoff time. Number 5.
Number 5, I got the Dodgers dropping down from 2. Yes, the Dodgers have looked much better this week, but the closer we get to October, the more glaring issues I see with this team, specifically the infield, and I think it's time to bump them down from the upper tier of teams.
My number 5 team is going to be the Phillies, who I actually had at number 1 last time. They moved down 4 spots. They have the best record in the NL with the 66-46 record, but the trade deadline and the current roster just isn't good enough for me right now. They added Carlos Estevez and Austin Hayes, which are solid players, but is this lineup good enough for the playoffs, considering some of the stuff that's happened in the NL for teams to get better? I just think they didn't do enough at the trade deadline for me to be like, yes, this is the best team in the NL. They deserve to be in the top 3 in my rankings. And considering that they've been struggling over this past month, I couldn't put them higher than the Dodgers for right now. And they lost yesterday, so I guess the Dodgers. Number 4.
Number 4, I have Cleveland. They're going up 1 spot from 5. I like that they held their own against Baltimore, but I will say Cleveland right now has a worse OPS than the A's and the Angels, so they're lucky to have such a big lead in the American League if things do go wrong here for them. But I guess we can't complain yet.
Yeah. Number 4 for me is going to be where I put the Dodgers. So the top 3 will be all American League teams at 66-47. They're a half game out of the best win-loss record in the NL. They had an active but a weird trade deadline where they got Michael Kopech, Ahmed Rosario, Tommy Edman, and Kevin Kiermaier. But the biggest thing for them is they just got Clayton Kershaw back. Freddie Freeman is now back in the lineup after missing games due to his son being sick. And hopefully Mookie Betts will be back by the end of the month because he's Mookie Betts. It's pretty simple to say. I trust the Dodgers more than I trust the Phillies right now. Maybe not in a full playoff series, but it's leaning more that Dodgers side right now considering their starting rotation. with a Glasnow now at the top of the head instead of somebody else. Number 3,
Kevin Biggio, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you see him lose the spare glove the other night?
Yeah, and they were looking for the longest time.
That's
it's
hilarious.
like, shouldn't there be a pitch clock violation or something? Like, come on now.
Oh yeah, next I do have the Phillies finally. I dropped them down just from 1 to 3 because I didn't hate the trade deadline as much as others, but it is a rough stretch. It's 2-8 in their last 10. This week is massive, though. The reason I didn't bump them all the way down yet is because they still have 2 more games against the Dodgers, and they have another series against one of the hottest teams in baseball in Arizona. So I want to see one more week, I guess, before I drop them down.
And you're wearing a Philly shirt. So
yes, sir.
You couldn't move them down. Number 3 for me is going to be where I put the Cleveland Guardians. So they have the best record in baseball, despite moving down 1 spot in my rankings. 65 or 67 and 45. Trade deadline was a bit awkward, I would say. I like the Lane Thomas move, and Alex Cobb move could be very fruitful if he stays healthy. The best part of this team, though, is the bullpen. It's Class A, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron, Cade Smith, all those dudes ridiculously dominant, plus a couple more. The only reason why they're not a number 1 or number 2 in my rankings is I don't see 3 or 4 guys in this rotation that could get you 5 innings against the Baltimore, against the New York Yankees team in the playoffs. And, while you might be okay getting away with, 3 or 4 decent innings from a starter and, a 3-game wild card series, if you're in a 7-game series and you struggle to get through 5 on every single starter that you pitch, by game 6, game 7, Class A Gaddis, Herron, Smith have pitched in all 7 games. Like, you got to find guys that you trust. I don't think you find it in Gavin Williams this year. I think he just bounced back off an injury a little bit too late. Tanner Bybee's been interesting. Blake Lively has the most, Blake Lively's a singer. Ben Lively has the most wins out of their starting rotation right now with 10. And I do not feel extremely confident giving the ball to Ben Lively come game 1 or game 2 of an ALCS or something like that. So Cleveland needs to find starting or pitching that they can trust in order for me to really believe in them. And as of right now, I just don't think that's that. Number 2.
I got Baltimore going up a spot from 3. I understand the argument for Cleveland up here in this spot. They just split the 4-gamer with Baltimore, but the O's have a little more firepower, bringing in Eloy Jimenez and others, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Baltimore if they do play in the playoffs. Like what Baltimore and Texas, that series, like there's no way Cleveland could compete in an environment like that.
Yeah. Number 2 for me is going to be where I slot the Yankees. They move up 2 spots from my last rankings at 70. Oh my God, I can't see the records right today. 67 and 46. They're tied at top of the AL East with who. They added Jazz Chisholm, of course, and also Mark Leiter Jr. The lineup just feels way more depth than it did before. And I think that's the biggest thing with the Yankees and exactly what they were trying to attack at this trade deadline, whether it's because of Stanton being back and Judge Chisholm being good and, Austin Wells and DJ LeMahieu being better. Those things combining is exactly what the Yankees want. If they have that and, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto being Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, they're going to be completely okay when it comes to October. They got the starting rotation. They got the bullpen. They're built for, an October series. Number 1.
It makes me sick to do it, but I really think the Yankees are the best team in baseball. They just swept the Phillies. That felt like a playoff series, and the Yankees had a guy for every situation. The Phillies did not. They had Austin Hayes and Josh something coming in to play outfield to pinch hit, and that guy was hitting 180, and he's in the 9th inning against the Yankees. That's unacceptable, right? And that would happen in the playoffs if they were right now. So yeah. I think the Yankees are the best team. They knew how to handle that perfectly. Judge is having an all-timer season, and it somehow takes a lot away from Juan Soto, who has the same exact WAR. It's just crazy, and I hate to say it, but it's looking like their year.
Yeah. Number 1 for me is going to be where I slot the Orioles. They move up 2 spots from the last rankings, tied at the top of the American League East with the Yankees, of course, at 67 and 46. I said it right, finally. they had a weird trade deadline, and they've had a weird couple of weeks as far as roster transactions go. Kobe Mayo and Jackson Holiday are up, of course. Jordan Westberg is out possibly till the end of the regular season with the broken wrist. Jorge Mateo's hurt. They added Sir Anthony Dominguez, Zach Eflin, Trevor Rogers, Gregory Soto, and Eloy Jimenez, and got rid of Austin Hayes. I like the lineup. I like the bullpen. The only thing is, who's your three for Baltimore as your starter? Because Kyle Bradish is out for the season. He's getting Tommy John. He's not coming back. You got Corbin Burns as your obvious one. I think Grayson's probably pretty easy too. Do you want to go Dean Kramer as your three? Do you want to go Zach Eflin as your three? Do you want to go Trevor Rogers as your three? I don't know. They're going to have to figure out who they trust in that back end there, and I don't think it's going to be some other guy outside of those top three as well too. So Baltimore, I do think you're still the best team in the American League, the best team in the major leagues right now, but you got some questions to answer in these last 2 months, and you got to win the division too. Helps a lot doing that. That being said, though, that's our top 15 power rankings. We're moving on to our award race check-in. It's pretty common format for us today, where we're going to do our top three in the AL NL MVP, AL NL Cy Young, AL NL Rookie of the Year, and then just a single pick for the reliever and manager as well too on both sides, of course. AL MVP, Skyler. I guess we'll start off with the big dog. All right. Honorable mentions. Do you have anybody that you want to talk about before we get into the top three?
There are so many guys. I didn't even write them down, but guys like Devers and Duran in Boston doing what we didn't think was possible. And even the youngsters like Gunnar Henderson, Vlad Jr., they're obviously not done, but they didn't quite make my list this year.
Yeah, I have Gunnar Henderson, Jaron Duran, and J-Ram as my honorable mentions. And I guess quick shout out to Brent Rooker. Not going to be on any of these lists, but the third highest WRC plus in the league, that's pretty damn cool. So shout out Brent Rooker. Number three.
All right. My number three for AL MVP will be Juan Soto of the Yankees. He's right there next to Judge and everything you can ask for other than home runs. He's walked the same exact amount of times, which is crazy. Just an incredible 1-2 punch that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, number three is going to be Juan Soto. 7.0 WARs, third in the American League. He's got 28 homers, 79 RBIs, 18.4% walk rate, which is second to Judge by 0.1%. A 310 batting average, a 190 WRC plus, which is second to Judge, and a positive defensive value for the first time in his career. That's why he's already having the highest WAR season of his entire short but long career in a weird way. And Juan Soto is the number three player on my AL MVP list. Number two,
I'm going to go with your guy, Bobby Witt Jr. He's already got the 20-20-20-20. That's doubles, homers, walks, stolen bases. He's really done everything for Kansas City. They would not be here without him.
Number two for me, it's a clear top two. It's going to be Soto, or not Soto, it's going to be Judge and Witt. Order is up to your determination. I put Aaron Judge as my number two guy. 7.7 WARs, first in the big leagues. 41 homers is first. 103 RBIs is first. 216 WRC plus is first. A 322 batting average is ridiculous. So why isn't he the number one player on my AL MVP list? That's something I'll get into once I get to number one.
Well, I'll let you know right now, Kyle. Aaron Judge, you found a special player when the analytics are loving a power guy. And that's exactly what's happening here. He's on pace for another 60. It's not that I don't think Bobby Witt's deserving. I just feel like I've never seen this ever from an outfielder of this guy's size. And that's why I have to keep him at number one right now.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Number one for me, though, is going to be Bobby Witt Jr. His 7.64 is second in the American League. He's got 20 homers, 25 stolen bases. He's hitting 343, a 165 WRC plus, which is fourth in the American League. So he's the fourth best hitter in the American League. That doesn't, calculate stolen bases. If you, add stolen bases as total bases, then it ends up being even higher. So you're like, wow, that's a pretty damn good player. But he's also one of the best defensive shortstops in all of baseball. 7 defensive runs saved and a 13 fielding run value according to StatCast. This guy's the most complete all-around player that we've seen since Mike Trout. He is every possible thing that you can do as a baseball player, position player. He does it right. He's fast. He's powerful. He's got a ton of contact. Both sides of fielding he's really good at. And when you look at the term of most valuable player, I think he just fits the bill perfectly because that Kansas City team without him would be god-awful. And that's no shade to, Seth Lugo and all the guys in that rotation. But Bobby Witt is just the most valuable, in my opinion. And I think if you were to switch the roles of Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt, you put Bobby Witt as the shortstop for the New York Yankees and Aaron Judge as a center fielder for the Kansas City Royals, Bobby Witt would be making Derek Jeter look like Drew Bledsoe. That's what it would be right now. Bobby Witt he's like 24 or whatever, 23, 24. Like, this dude is ridiculous. He's just in Kansas City. If it was the other way around, he'd be, Yankee fans would be on the fucking floor, doing this crazy stuff to beg for him to win MVP. He's going to get a ton of them in his career. Hopefully he's never a Yankee because that would suck. Keep him in Kansas City. They already did through 2037. Bobby Witt's my AL MVP so far.
Definitely a race we will look back on years from now with updated statistics. And we go, how do we miss this?
Should be fun. On to the NL side, a bit less exciting on this side, unfortunately. Skyler, any honorable mentions that you want to talk about?
I actually didn't. I'm sure there are. Mookie Betts would be here if he were healthy, but not the way it went this year.
Yeah, I only put Ellie as my honorable mention. 5.4 WAR is second in the National League, but I kept him off my list. Number three,
I'm going with Bryce Harper. It's nothing new from Harper this season, but it's what he's done for the Phillies that can't really be measured right now. The amount of fear he gives pitchers, it completely opens up their lineup. And by the way, he also is top 5 in basically everything you could do in the National League too.
Yeah. Number 3 for me is going to be where I slot Ketel Marte. A 5.2 WAR is 4th in the National League. He's got 28 homers, 78 RBIs, 300 batting average, a 152 WRC plus, and he's been the biggest player in the best offense in the National League. And that's part why they're in a wild card spot right now. So Ketel Marte is my number 3. Number 2.
I actually put Ketel Marte in the 2 spot. He's striking out way less this year. It's 28 homers. That's the same amount as Juan Soto, and a lot of similarities with Juan Soto. With Ketel playing some DH this year, maybe that's helping him out. But I'm glad neither of us quit on Arizona this year because they are back with a vengeance for sure.
Number 2, I'm going with Frankie Lindor, dude. 5.2 WAR is 3rd in the National League. I know it's the same as Ketel Marte, but I think he's like slightly percentage point higher. 22 homers, 23 stolen bases, a 126 WRC plus, 13 outs above average, and 10 fielding run value. As a shortstop, the most hardest position to play in all of baseball as a defender. I guess catcher is probably harder, but still shortstop is probably up there. This is a guy who just maximizes his potential in every possible category. He's going to hit 30 homers. He's going to steal 30 stolen bases. He's going to have 30 stolen bases. He could win a Gold Glove at shortstop again. And he's been the best player on the Mets since they got on this run in mid-May, whatever it was. They move him into the leadoff spot, and it's just been a different team. Mr. Smile is the best shortstop in the National League. Over Ellie De La Cruz, I'm sorry. Maybe in the future, Ellie, but Lindor's got that, token right now. And the number 1.
Yeah, this one really hasn't changed a lot, has it? Shohei Ohtani. He's going to have a 40-40 season from the DH spot. He's the only guy in the National League still one-dotting his OPS. Ohtani will be winning this award.
Yeah, it feels unanimous at this point. It's like a race for second place at this point with all the other dudes. Ohtani's 5.9 WAR is 0.5 higher than anybody else in the National League. Still kind of crazy to see how crazy, like, say, Juan Soto is in the National League. Maybe this is his award, but we're not at that point right now, so we won't get into that. But has the highest WAR in the National League. His 34 homers, also 32 stolen bases is crazy. Batting average over 300. Top WRC plus at 182. He's got 81 RBIs. Just don't forget that this guy can pitch too, and be like a damn good pitcher. I think it's so easy to just be like, oh, yep, it's Shohei Ohtani. But every single time you watch him play, realize this has never been done before in the 150-year history of this game. This guy is probably the most talented player that has ever picked up a baseball in the entire history of history. So, Shohei Ohtani, I'm not glazing you. I'm just being a real ass dude right now. On to AL Cy Young. Skyler, any honorable mentions here?
Tanner Huck does drop out. He's having a great year, but some other guys have surpassed him, I think.
Yeah, two guys in my honorable mentions. The first of which is Logan Gilbert, who was in my top 3 last time that we did this. He's been really good. He's pitched a ton of innings. I think it's worthy of a shout out. Garrett Crochet is the other guy. One of the most dominant guys in the league this year. Doesn't walk a ton of people in strikes. I think the most out of anybody in the National or American League this year. He's really good. Just doesn't pitch enough innings. And is unfortunately on a team that has not won since July 10th. Number 3, though. Who do you got?
Yeah, speaking of guys who can go deep into games, how about Seth Lugo being able to go 7 Ks per 9 deep into games? To me, that's more impressive than a guy with really good stuff going 4 1/3, because Seth Lugo gets a lot of ground balls and a lot of weak contact. So sorry, Cole Reagans.
Yeah. Number 3 for me is going to be Corbin Burns. He's got a 3.0 WAR, 143.2 innings pitched, which is 3rd in the American League, a 2.63 ERA, which is also 3rd in the American League, and an 80.5% left on base. So only 1 out of every 5 base runners scoring from him that gets on. And that's 4th in the American League. He's been dominant. Corbin Burns is Corbin Burns, pitching on the best team in the American League. And that's why he should be, in this consideration. Number 2.
Yeah, here's where I got Corbin. He hasn't really skipped a beat since coming to Baltimore. No injury concerns, a bunch of innings, a sub-3 ERA. Everything's been excellent, just like he said it.
Yeah, and something also interesting with Corbin Burns, I think the Orioles have incentive to just work him through the wall, man. Like he's on end of his contract. If he gets hurt, just don't fucking sign him. Like it's done. And that's all you got to worry about. Obviously, you want to have Corbin Burns for the future, but sacrifice him to go win a World Series right now. I think that's okay to do.
Yeah.
My number 2 guy is Seth Lugo with a 3.4 WAR right now and the most innings pitched in the American League with 150.1. He's got tied for first ERA, which is exactly the makeup that you want for my type of Cy Young. The most innings, being the most effective, with a 2.57 ERA, tied at the top of that list. He's got to be near the top there. Left on base percentage at 80.3, right below Corbin Burns at 6th in the American League. So Lugo's been really damn good. But there's only one guy who's been better, and I think we both have him as our Cy Young.
Yes, that's Tarek Skubal of the Tigers. He's got to be the front runner right now. 162 Ks. That's the same as Crochet, but he doesn't walk guys. He doesn't let anyone run on him. His 2.57 ERA is tied with Lugo right now. It's pretty incredible watching him, and I'm interested to see what happens with him contract-wise, because obviously wasn't dealt this year.
Now, it's Tarek Skubal. He's 2nd in WAR in American League starting pitchers with 4.0. He's only behind George Kirby in that. WAR for starting pitchers isn't really something I gauge off of, but just interesting to note that George Kirby's the number 1 guy there, maybe just because he doesn't walk anyone. 136.1 innings pitched is 4th in the American League, so still good there. And he's tied with Seth Lugo for the ERA title at 2.57. 2.64 FIP as well, too, means he's, being pretty much straight to the point there. That's tied for first with, I want to say, Garrett Crochet. Then the 10.69 K per 9 is 2nd in the American League, only behind Garrett Crochet. Tarek Skubal's done great getting deep into games. He's just been a great ace for a Detroit Tigers team that needs an ace. I'm happy they didn't trade him. Hopefully they extend him or something, because This guy's got a ton of value, and if you traded him or something like that, it would have been ridiculous in my mind. Tariq Skubal, your AL Cy Young through 120 games, 110 games, whatever.
51 left, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. On to NL Cy Young. NL or honorable mentions.
Yeah, I would have loved to put Skeens and Hunter Green on this list, but there's another guy who really defied all the odds this year.
My honorable mentions are Tyler Glasnow, Logan Webb, and my number 4 guy is Hunter Green. I think there's a difference between those guys. And just so you know, for the NL Cy Young criteria, I had at least 80 innings pitched just to see how Paul Skeens stacks up. Okay. Who's your 3?
Number 3, I'm going to go with Chris Sale. Like I said, he's really defied all the odds here. The number 1 qualified ERA right now with a 2.71. He's still striking guys out at a ridiculous clip. And he's 35 years young. How awesome is that?
How about a guy that's 22 years young as my number 3? I'm going with Paul Skeens, man. This guy, if he was up the entire year and was healthy, I mean, it's over. Like, this guy's winning this award. He's been the most dominant starting pitcher since he came up in May or whatever it was. 2.54 is 12th in National League starters, despite only having 14 games started, which is around 8 or 9 less than most guys. There 86 innings pitched, and those 18 games started is way over, 5 to 6 innings. He's a workhorse in that department, despite also having the best ERA during that time at a 1.99. Second best FIP at 2.69, only behind someone who's in the top 2 of my list. His 11.2 K per 9 is 4th in the National League. But the biggest thing for him, or the 2 biggest things I'll hit on, is his K percent minus walk percent is 26.2 or 26.6, which is first in the American League. So he's striking everybody out and he's not walking anyone. And that helps because he also has an 88.1% left on base percentage, which is first in the National and American League, which means almost only 1 of every 10 base runners that get on for Paul Skeens turn into runs. The rest of them are stranded.
Wow.
They don't do anything, which is ridiculous. I don't know if that's like an all-time good number or anything like that. I just thought 88. I was like, holy shit, I should probably write that down. On number 2.
Number 2, I am going to go with Zach Wheeler. I think he definitely still is in the race here. It feels like only Logan Webb, an honorable mention guy, is going to beat him in innings. He's been the model of consistency in the National League, whether he's striking out 12 a night or not as frequently anymore, finding a way to get deep into games.
Number 2 for me is going to be where I slot Chris Sale. His 4.1 WAR is first among National League starting pitchers. He's got 123 innings pitched and 20 games started. So him and Paul Skeens are a bit different in the category of you got to have the most innings pitched for it to be a winner for me. These guys have just been so damn good. It's tough to not talk about them. The 2.71 ERA is third among pitchers with at least 80 innings pitched in the National League. 2.32 FIP is by far first in the National League, and 11.34 K per 9 is third. Chris Sale is being prime Chris Sale once again. You said the ripe old age or ripe young age, whatever, of 35. Number 1.
I did it, Kyle. I went Dylan Cease at number 1, and I put him at number 1 because he's thrown the same amount of innings as Zach Wheeler, and I trust Dylan Cease more right now because he's able to trade a couple runs here and there for 30 more strikeouts than Zach Wheeler has. And in my eyes, if Wheeler's number 2, I got to put him above Wheeler.
That's fair. I didn't. Zach Wheeler's my Cy Young so far in the National League. A 3.3 WAR is good, but 136.2 innings pitched and 22 games started is ridiculous. That's third total innings pitched in the National League. A 2.77 ERA is fourth. The 9.75 K per 9 for the best National League team as far as record goes right now is worthy of the National League Cy Young. In my opinion, he's been a guy who's been close to getting it. I think this is the year that he finally has a good chance. I wouldn't be shocked if Sale or Glasnow takes it from him, though, according to voters.
Or Cease.
Skeens has a higher chance than Cease, in my opinion. That's what's going to happen. Or Hunter Green. Shout out Hunter Green, too. He's been really good. Pitcher of the month, by the way. On to AL Rookie of the Year. Honorable mentions.
Mason Miller. At least he's still on the scheme, right?
Yeah. I have Louis Eel and Mason Miller as my honorable mentions. The two pitchers, I went with all three position players in my stuff here. Number three.
Number three, I'm finally going to give it to Wilyer Abreu. It's not happening with Mason Miller, at least right now. So here's a guy who's exceeding his expectations, especially the power numbers in Boston. And by now probably there's another Boston rookie who I'm going to have slightly above, but it's no disrespect to Abreu. He makes the list finally.
I got Wilyer as my number three as well, too. 2.4 WAR is third among American League rookies. He's only played in 85 games, but in those 85 games, 12 homers, 7 stolen bases, a 131 WRC plus, and a good fielding run value at 3. Just a good all-around player. I was a fan of him last year in a small stint that he played for the Red Sox. I did not know much about him, but he's backing it up this year, and he's been pretty damn good for the Sox team. That's been a fun, exciting team to watch. Number two, staying put with Ceddanne Rafaela of Boston here. He's finally figured out how to contribute on offense despite not really walking ever, which is awesome because he can stay in the lineup. Because he's on this list for splitting time at shortstop and center field, two of the most difficult positions to play in all of sports. I love Ceddanne. He's on one of my fantasy teams. He's a huge, perfect fantasy guy. He hits homers. He steals bases. It's decent average as well, too. Just, OPS isn't quite his thing. But regardless, my number two is Austin Wells. I have a guy who's played 75 games and has the second highest WAR of any American League rookie this year at 2.6. The batting numbers aren't anything crazy. It's only 8 homers, a 12.8 walk rate, which is really good, actually. 115 WRC plus. But what this guy excels at is being behind the plate as a catcher for the New York Yankees. It's an 8 defensive run saved, a 6 fielding run value, and a 7.9 frame runs. I don't know exactly what the stat is, frame runs. It's just an FRM. I assume that means frame. But it's not damn good as well, too. He's a good catcher behind the plate. He's a good hitter. He's only played 75 games. He's on pace to be higher than Cowser if he played the same amount of games as Cowser. So Austin Wells is my number 2 guy. Number 1.
I still think it's Luis Eel, man. Just last week, he got big wins at Philly and then at Baltimore recently for a team really needing starting pitching help. And I think at the end of the day, his 21 starts so far this season are going to end up being more valuable to this team's World Series run than a Colton Cowser is to Baltimore. So that's why I left him off.
Number 1 for me, Jackson Holiday. No. Number 1, Colton Cowser. He's kind of a Callan stat merchant, but who cares? You kind of sometimes that's how it just is with Rookie of the Year. He's been up the entire season, 105 games played, but the WAR 3.1 is first. With that being said, he's still been good this past month. He had a slow couple months after a hot April. He's been good over the past month or so with 16 homers, 124 weighted runs created plus. I don't know why I just didn't say WRC plus. And the biggest shocker here, he's been an amazing outfielder for the Orioles. A 10 fielding run value is really damn good. That aspect of his game is not something I expected. He's a complete player, and he's, maybe not talked about a ton because he's probably the 5th or 6th best hitter in that Orioles lineup when healthy. But he's still a stud, and he is a counting stat merchant, but who cares? He's good. Number nothing in honorable mentions for the National League Rookie of the Year, Skyler. Who do you have here?
All the pitchers. I mean, we might not talk about Stone, Yamamoto, Kyle Harrison. I'm probably forgetting a bunch more, but just so many great rookie arms in the National League.
Yeah. I have one honorable mention. It is Jackson Merrill, and I guess maybe Mason Wynn too.
Sure.
Number three.
Yeah, I am going to give this spot to Jackson Merrill. I'm still pretty shocked about what he was able to do this season. Like having a veteran's approach at only 21 years old, being ready opening day in Korea while playing center field every day when he's a shortstop. That still just blows my mind.
Number three for me is not a guy I expected to have on here 2-3 weeks ago. Tyler Fitzgerald is number three
Okay.
on my National League rookie. Only 51 games played, and he has the second highest WAR of any National League rookie, only behind Mason Wynn at 2.6 right now. 12 homers, 7 stolen bases, 186 WRC plus. This guy, if you look at his Baseball Savant page, you're going to freak out. He has this ridiculous strength. He's a good fielder, and he is also in the 99th percentile of sprint speed. He's fast. He's got a ton of power. He might be 26 and turning 27 by the end of the season, but who cares? This guy's a stud right now, and he deserves some respect. Number two.
Number two, I got to go with Shota Imanaga of the Cubs. He's been excellent through his 20 starts this year, 3.09 ERA. And a fun one I found, 7 strikeouts per walk. That's incredible.
Yeah. I also have Shota as my number two, 2.5 WARs, tied among NL rookie starting pitchers for WAR. 116 innings pitched in 20 starts is over the 5 innings. He's almost getting 6 innings per start, which is good. 3.09 ERA, and like you said, the good walk to strikeout ratio is always something that you like to see. He might be 30. Who cares? Shota's a stud, and he's doing it while playing in a country that he hasn't been in for an extended period of time in his entire life. So that's pretty damn cool. Number one.
Yeah, this is Paul Skeens. He's only been, I don't know, one of the top 10 starters in baseball the minute he stepped on a big league mound, and I can't wait for the next one. That's how entertaining he is. He's not even close to being done.
He is perhaps the most must-watch player in this league right now. Maybe like Aaron Judge or Bobby Witt or Ellie De La Cruz or Shohei can make a case, but Paul Skeens, there's a reason when you click on MLB stats and there's a little notes before you go into it. It says, when table is sorted by a rate stat, example, average or ERA, non-qualified players are hidden by default. All-star starting pitcher Paul Skeens does not yet qualify for the ERA title. View his stats here, and it has a link to his page. That's just on the MLB stats page. This dude is probably the most searched name in baseball for these newcomer guys that are watching the sport. And he is the best starting pitcher in baseball. The stats might say differently, long-term wise, he's pitching over innings, whatever. Over the time that he's been up, he's been the best pitcher in baseball, and he's only getting better. He's just now learning how to throw his blinker. He doesn't walk people. He strikes everybody out. He goes deep into games. He's a complete workhorse. The only thing I am somewhat scared for, because he's a pitcher, is how long can he do this for? Is he going to be able to do this when he's 25? If he has years of 22, 23, 24, where he's pitching 200-plus innings. I don't know, but I hope so, because he's a stud, and he's good for the game, and the Pirates sure as hell better find a way to win in his era that he's there.
Yeah.
On to relievers of the year, starting off with the AL side. I only have one honorable mention, Skyler. Did you?
I did not.
I had Mason Miller. He's been the most dominant.
Yeah.
But obviously doesn't have the saves or anything like that to really be in there. Who is your reliever of the year, though, in the AL, Skyler? Pretty obvious one.
This is going to be Emmanuel Clase, and it's not really close at all because he's only walked 6 base runners this season.
Yeah, Emmanuel Clase, 33 saves his first. 0.69 ERA nice is really damn good. 52 and a third innings pitched as a closer. Also pretty damn effective. I like the guys that can not just be 3 out, robots. They can come in for a 4th out or 5th out, have an up down and be okay. Emmanuel Clase is exactly that. He's been dominant. He doesn't strike out the most people, but that's not his job. Just don't allow runs, and he's the best at doing that. So Emmanuel Clase is AL reliever of the year. On to NL reliever, and actually we just got some news that Mason Miller plans to be activated tomorrow.
Nice.
So that's good to see.
Yeah.
NL reliever. Honorable mention, all of it, just go for it.
Yeah, Tanner Scott, Halsey, Robert Suarez, all great guys so far. Can we go into mine? My real one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So all those guys have been great, but I'm going to go in a different direction here. I'm going with Raisel Iglesias, actually, for my reliever of the year. A 1.73 ERA. Yes, it's worse than Robert Suarez, but Iglesias is back from the dead at 34, and he throws less pitches per inning. He's way more effective than these other guys.
And
yes,
he has the coolest celebration after he wins, where he's like, "What's that cool thing?" Which is pretty cool. Yeah. Ryan Helsley is my honorable mention because my reliever of the year is Robert Suarez. This guy is so fun and so dominant to watch pitch. 24 saves, is third in the National League, only behind Helsley and Kyle Finnegan. Shout out Kyle Finnegan. And a 1.44 ERA is really damn good. 43.2 innings pitched. He's another one of those guys that isn't just a 3-out robot. He can come up and pitch a bit of the eighth too before going into the ninth and be okay. They just haven't needed him to do it too much because they have so good 6, 7, 8 inning guys there in San Diego now, especially even more with Tanner Scott and Jameson Adam being added in the fold. I like him a ton. He's a stud. There's a reason why they signed him to a long-term contract prior to the season. AL Manager of the Year. We like this one.
Yes.
Honorable mentions, though. Do you have anybody that you want to talk about?
I didn't for these.
I have 2 honorable mentions I do want to talk about.
Yeah.
First of which is Matt Quatraro, the manager of the Kansas City Royals. And then I also put Kotze in here. I think he's going to get like some weird 3rd or 4th place votes in this because I think a lot of people understand what he's going through and kind of the roster that he's been given this year. And it turned out a team that isn't the worst in baseball and hopefully will be the 4th place team in the American League West when it's all said and done. It's pretty impressive for Kotze. So I'll give him a shout out there. But number 1 is exactly who we want it to be.
Yeah, this award usually doesn't go to the first place team all that often, but this one has to go to Stephen Vogt because most teams usually don't have an entire culture shift in one off season like the Guardians did. He's done an amazing job.
Yeah, it's Stephen Vogt, man. This guy should be unanimous except for that one Kansas City voter that's going to be in there and vote Quatraro. Regardless, Stephen Vogt's changed his team so much. And the roster, the bullpen's good, but when you really look at it, like it's not that crazy of a roster. On to the NL manager side. Any honorable mentions that you want to talk about here?
No, sir.
I have Carlos Mendoza as a honorable mention. I think I don't even want to say he's been good, but he's been, dealt a good card from the Mets, and he's had some, good vibes.
Sure.
If the players are enjoying playing, that's got to do something with the manager, right? He's managed them in a way that the players like, I guess. So I give him an honorable mention. But who is your manager of the year?
A past honorable mention for me has been Ollie Marmol, but I feel like their vibes are all gone these days. So I'm going to go with Mike Schill to San Diego, actually, because the Padres weren't supposed to be good this year. I understand the front office has a lot to do with their success so far, but for a team to clean house, trade the best player they've seen since Tony Gwynn in the building, and still be on pace for 90 wins, should have them in the conversation, especially if they are that number 1 wildcard spot.
I went with Pat Murphy. Manager of the Brewers as my NL manager of the year. I think he has the edge over Schilt in my opinion because that roster of the Padres is just so much better than what the Brewers have. Maybe it's because, the record of the Padres isn't as good because they're playing the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and the Giants, all the time. And the, Brewers maybe don't have to play those teams to that quite extent. But Pat Murphy's roster fucking sucks, dude. Like, he's got a couple good players, but he's dealt with the injury of Devin Williams well. He's dealt with the injury of Christian Yelich well. He's dealt with the injury of guys like D.L. Hall and Brandon Woodruff, who wasn't even expected to play this year pretty well, and managed his team to be the top NL Central team by probably a pretty good margin when the season ends. So Pat Murphy is my NL manager of the year.
All right.
On to the second half, though. Skyler, tell me about the Olympic basketball.
Yes. So we had 4 quarterfinal games. 4 teams were eliminated today. So let's go through it, man. We're down to a final 4. How about we start with Team USA? They dominated Brazil 122-87. This was a big game for Devin Booker. Embiid got to shoot a lot because it was such a blowout, and Anthony Davis was slamming it down on these 6'6" Brazilian forwards. It was not even fair, man. So that was cool to watch. They will be having a rematch against Jokic's Serbian team after they upset Australia this morning, 95-90. I want to say Jokic's numbers were along the lines of 17-17, which is crazy. It seems like he's breaking a record no matter what league he's playing in, even the Olympics. On the other side of the brackets, a really weird game this morning. I didn't get to watch these. These were like 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. France shut down Canada completely, 82-73. Even though the defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, played 3 minutes. I don't know what happened. This game was at 3 a.m. I haven't figured it out yet.
He got hurt.
Probably what happened. Wembanyama
Well, they just couldn't shoot, and they needed it. I don't know.
I mean, it's that. Come on, Canada. SGA couldn't do it by himself, I guess. Dylan Brooks being a dick out there. But another sad one. Giannis is done. Germany held them to 63 points today. Massive game from Franz Wagner, the one who is on Orlando, or maybe they both are now.
They're both on Orlando.
The younger one.
The one who isn't Mo.
Yes, the one who's not Mo. He had a cool 17. And they're probably going to get smacked by France, but I guess we got to see what happens with Gobert. And if Wembanyama is going to shoot like 3 for 17 again, they may be in trouble. But that's the final 4: USA against Serbia, France against Germany, and it's been pretty cool so far. When it's not at middle of the night to watch these games. All right, that's my halftime. Let's get out of here, man.
Yeah, we got the bets that we got to go over before we are quite done. But we'll get started with going over last week. We did good in the layup. Kansas City over Chicago was my Wednesday one. That happened, of course. Chicago hasn't won a long time. Skyler also had the same way that I did. Picked Minnesota over Chicago on Friday. That also did happen, so we're good there. This week, I have Arizona first 5 over Cleveland on Wednesday. That's a Carlos Carrasco start versus Brandon Pfaadt. I want to say I don't trust Arizona versus that back end of the bullpen of Cleveland, but I think against Carrasco is a pretty good matchup to take there. And so I'll take the Arizona in the first 5 in that one.
Okay. I'm going to keep a similar strategy here. St. Louis is not hot at all. I'm going to take Kansas City over them on Friday. That's a Michael Lorenzen start against Miles Mikolas. I really like Lorenzen. He's looked so far pretty good for Kansas City, and let's keep it going, man.
And moving on to our bold predictions, I had Colorado over the Angels on Wednesday. That did happen. Skyler had St. Louis over the Cubs on Friday. Unfortunately, that did not happen. This time, I had Tampa Bay winning a series in St. Louis this week. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series, so it's starting right about 20 minutes from now. And I think Tampa Bay wins that series in St. Louis, which isn't that bold, but maybe like plus 120 if I can find the odds or something like that.
I like that we're on the same page here with St. Louis because it means I'm not crazy. But this one might be crazy. I'm taking Pittsburgh over the Dodgers on Saturday night. That's a Paul Skeens start. We saw the A's were able to beat the Dodgers the other night when their starting pitcher went soft early, trying to steal some strikes, and then fastball. So they couldn't sit back on anything on the first pitch. That's how Skeens can beat these guys. Skeens can beat, I think I said it right, but in case I didn't, I got Paul Skeens winning.
Yeah.
It's hard talking for over an hour sometimes. I'm sorry.
I agree. It's tough saying 67 and 46 over and over again when you want to say 76 and 47. So feel that, but that's going to do it for the end of episode 204. Yeah. With it being August, that does mean football is right around the corner. Obviously, that's something that Skyler and I have been looking forward to add back into our Immaculate Sports fold as this year goes on and we approach the beginning of year 5.
Yeah.
Of doing the podcast. 204 straight weeks. We're still kicking strong.
Yes, we are.
And ready for 205 and beyond. Any parting notes that you got?
Well, we're going to find out, unfortunately, a lot more really bad injuries that are going to happen in the preseason. But hopefully there's just as many great young rookie stars who have a good 2 drives that we can watch. That's my preseason take.
That's about where I'm at.
All right.
All righty.
We'll see you next Tuesday, 2:05.
Later.
Let's go Jets. Let's beat the commies, man.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Fuck Russia.